I was like every other kid. I went to school, spent time with my friends and family, had crushes on people. But then, when I was 15, something happened that was like out of a fiction novel. Something that changed my life forever. But before I go on, make sure you like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you do, you will become a millionaire in the next 4 years. Trust me, it really works. I was at a bank with my mom and we were taking out some cash because the next weekend we were going to go on a trip to the countryside. My mom was at the counter talking to the staff member and I was sitting in the waiting room quietly. There was a small bowl of sweets on the table and I was about to lean over and grab some when suddenly alarm bells rang and 5 robbers stormed in. They burst in through the door, their faces covered in a full mask. They started yelling at people to stand down and get on their knees with their hands behind their heads. Many of the bank customers were screaming and so were the staff members, but eventually everyone did as the robbers said. My mom had ran straight to me and had her arm around me. I was terrified. I felt like my entire life had flashed before my eyes, and it was boring. I didn't want to die, and I was so scared that the robbers would do something to hurt my mom too. We sat there in agonizing silence while the robbers searched the bank and collected as much money as they could stuff into their bags. I could feel my phone in my back pocket, and I tried to reach for it so I could call the police, but I was scared that one of the robbers would notice. Then, I heard sirens outside and I realized the police were already here. I felt relief well up inside me, but then one of the robbers grabbed my mom and held her roughly. The robber was a woman and I could see from beneath her mask that she had red hair and bright blue eyes. "Don't come any closer," the woman yelled at the police stationed outside. "Relax, release the hostages and we'll go easy on you in court," said the police. "Sure you will," the woman replied sarcastically. I had to think of something quick. My mom could get hurt. That's when I noticed the fire alarm on the wall behind me. If I could pull that lever down, then maybe it would cause enough of a distraction to save my mom. I took a few deep breaths and then I sprinted to the fire alarm and pulled the lever down. Sprinklers suddenly turned on and drenched everyone in water, while more red alarms flashed on and off. The police seemed to take it as a cue and burst in, immediately arresting the robbers. Unfortunately, the woman that had grabbed my mom managed to escape. She ran from the building and she was never seen again. My mom, however, was fine, just a little shocked, and I was so glad that she was safe. The police took care of us after that, and I was ready to move on with my life. And that's precisely what I did. Life continued as usual, and my family and I were actually closer than ever because of the bank robbery. I guess we realized just how precious life is and how it can be snatched out of your hands in the blink of an eye. My mom and I made a lot of good memories after that. We hung out a lot more and we went on a lot more family trips. It was fun. But then things went really bad. My mother died in a freak car accident and it was so sudden and unexpected. My world came crashing down. It was just me and my dad left. Dad really helped me a lot in the beginning once Mom left us, but only the beginning. You see, my dad was the head of a huge car company, and he was busy most of the time, so I rarely saw him. Life got pretty lonely once Mom passed away. The first year was horrible. I was always sad, and I didn't have my dad to comfort me. My friends were a great help, but it wasn't the same. But then Dad told me he'd met someone new. He said he had met this woman at his office building, and he had instantly fallen in love. He asked me if it was okay if she moved in. "I know she'll never replace your mother," said Dad. "Your mother was the best woman I have ever met. But is it okay if I have a second chance at love?" I was shocked at first and a little nervous, but I was happy to see him moving on. "Of course," I said. "I can't wait to meet her." I was also ready to welcome my new stepmom. Without a mother figure, life felt out of balance. Maybe this dad's new girlfriend would help fill that void. And so, when the date was set for our first meeting, I was going in with a positive attitude. But then something happened like out of a nightmare. I was at home alone since Dad was going to pick her up and bring her to our house. I heard the car pull in, and then I heard her footsteps as they walked up the driveway. My stomach felt like it was full of butterflies. I couldn't contain my nerves. The door opened, and there she was. But as soon as I laid eyes on her, I screamed. It was the bank robber. This woman, my new stepmom, was the bank robber who had taken my mom hostage. I immediately recognized her red hair and blue eyes and her physique. Maybe I could have passed this off as a coincidence. Maybe they just looked the same. but I realized that she recognized me too, and she just decided to play it cool and didn't make a huge reaction, unlike me, who immediately ran into my room and locked the door. "Sam," called Dad in shock, "what are you doing?" Then I heard the woman's voice and my fears were confirmed because it was the same voice as that bank robber. "Don't worry, honey. This is normal for teens meeting stepmoms." "Scarlett, this is unacceptable. I'm sorry. He isn't usually like this." "That's okay." My dad thought I was being rude and grounded me after that, but I didn't want to be anywhere near that woman. Scarlett, as Dad had called her, was a criminal. That night, when Scarlett and Dad had retired to their bedroom, I called Dad from his phone and asked him to meet me downstairs. I was too scared to ask in front of Scarlett. Dad agreed, a little hesitantly, and within a few minutes I was downstairs telling him about Scarlett. "She's a criminal, Dad," I said desperately. "Remember when Mom and I were in the bank robbery? She was the leader of that robbery." But Dad didn't believe me. "You're just doing this because you don't want a stepmom." "No, I'm not, I swear," I said. But Dad wasn't having any of it. He ordered me back to my room, and I had to spend the rest of the night tossing and turning in bed because I was terrified of the criminal that was sleeping just a wall away from me. I continued at school, but I could never focus in class. I was always worried about Scarlett. Why was she suddenly in my life? It couldn't be a coincidence, right? And why was she dating my dad? Surely Dad wouldn't have fallen in love with a criminal. None of it made any sense. Then something happened that really turned my world upside down. I was out on the football field during lunchtime. The ball went out of bounds, and I went over to retrieve it when suddenly a man showed up and told me he was assigned to kill me for $1 million. I was so shocked. "Are you insane?" I cried out. Then the man lunged for me, but I managed to evade him and reported him to the police. He was arrested for attempted assault, and the police assured me I was now safe. But it still worried me terribly. What worried me was what the man had said. Who would put a $1 million bounty on me? Then it happened again. I was at the beach with some friends when another guy showed up, claiming he had been assigned to kill me, again for $1 million. I tried to ask him who had hired him, but suddenly he attacked me. My friend screamed as we fell to the ground. I struggled for some time, but I managed to shove him off. I forgot to mention this, but I'm actually a black belt in karate. Crazy, I know. But that's how I managed to evade the other guy too, and I retained the man just in time for the police to show up. When they grabbed him, a note fell out of his pocket. Curious, I picked it up, and this is what it read. "His name is Sam. He has brown hair and olive skin. Kill him, and I'll transfer the $1 million to your bank account within the hour. Signed, Scarlett." I stood there with this note in my hand and my mouth agape. It was my stepmom who had hired them to kill me. Questions swarmed in my head. Why would she want to kill me? How did she have $1 million to spare? How was I going to survive? After thinking for some time, I only managed to answer the first question. Scarlett realized I knew too much and wanted to silence me. I had to tell Dad. I ran home and burst in through the door, ready to explain everything, but it was only my stepmom there. Dad had left a note on the fridge door saying he had gone on a business trip and would be away for a week. I didn't know if I would survive that long. "What a surprise seeing you here, Sam," said Scarlett as she stepped into the kitchen. I backed away nervously. "Really?" "Yes," said Scarlett, and she smiled evilly. "Quite a surprise." She moved towards me, and I ran off as fast as I could. For the next week, I lived in hiding, trying to avoid people and survive. Dad didn't answer his phone. I suspected Scarlett had something to do with it. She had probably stolen his phone before he had left to work, so that I had no way of contacting him. I felt stuck. How was I going to make it? Scarlett probably had over 10 guys out to get me, and I was just a teenage boy. In the end, I devised a plan to trap Scarlett. I was going to confront her and make her confess and get it all on recording. Before I left, I attached a recording device to my chest beneath my shirt. I went back home and I confronted her in person. She was surprised to see me back at the house, and she'd probably guessed I was either on the run or dead. "I know who you are," I yelled at her. "You're the bank robber." Scarlett smiled. "Yes, I am." "What are you doing here? Why are you interested in my dad?" I asked. "Well, you're gonna be dead in a few minutes anyway, so I guess there's no harm in telling you," said Scarlett. "You see, I love being rich, but getting rich can be very difficult. Luckily for me, I can get rich very quickly by marrying your dad. All I have to do is marry that loser, and I'll have his whole business at my feet. And once I get him out of the way, all of his money too. What? I cried in shock. Oh, and I'm sorry about your mom, but she had to go in order for me to steal your dad and his money. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I tried to escape again, but this time she had me trapped. She locked the doors and tied me up with a rope. Oh, and we can't forget this, said Scarlett. She grabbed my secret recording device and smashed it beneath her foot. My plan was ruined. I was terrified as to what she was going to do next. But then, suddenly the door swung open and Dad burst into the room. Dad, I shouted. Sam, I'm here, don't worry, said Dad. He freed me and called the police, who came and arrested my stepmom. When I asked Dad why he was home early, Dad explained that he had forgotten his phone and had tried to contact our neighbors to see if I was all right. But they said they had last seen me running for my life, running from my stepmom. He came home as soon as he could because he had had a bad feeling about Scarlett. I was so glad he did. I miss my mom so much. I hate Scarlett for what she did. She ruined my life, and she took my mom from me. She's nothing but a jerk, but I can't let her ruin my life forever. I'm ready to move forward. My dad and I are closer now, and my mom's memory lives on through us.